Hey everyone, Professor McKinney here in the middle of Antarctica. Just wanted to give a shout out, say hey. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Just wanted to give you a quick view of the scenery. So this is our base camp behind me. It's in Union Glacier, Antarctica. And then we have Mount Rossman right here, our closest mountain. And then we have this whole mountain range behind us. It's called the Ellsworth Mountains. But yeah, hopefully you all have been productive these last couple weeks. And
hey everyone, for this week's video, I wanted to actually interview myself, which I've never done. Usually I interview other people. But I thought this would be a really interesting video for you all to hear directly from me. In this video, I'm wanting to talk about culture in the workplace in Antarctica. The first thing that I ask people is, to tell you a little bit about themselves and where they're from and what they do. So, as you all are aware, my name is John McKinney. I work as the human resources manager for a company called Antarctic Logistics and Expeditions. We are one of about 3 companies that offer private civilian expeditions on the mainland of Antarctica. You will find cruise companies that are operating off the coast, but we actually operate inland, which means we utilize aircraft to get from point A to point B throughout the continent. And it's a very expensive industry and type of work that we're in with moving logistics and people and fuel through Antarctica. With that, I do live in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where I work for the university on the side. Our offices for Antarctic Logistics and Expeditions are in Salt Lake City, Utah, so I travel back and forth quite a bit. We do operate in Antarctica for 3 months out of the year. We also have an office in Punta Arenas, Chile, that operates about 4 to 5 months out of the year. But the thing with me is, looking at the work culture in Antarctica, right? It's very unique. And the reason why I say that is because in Antarctica, no one has the home field advantage, right? No company, no country, no one owns Antarctica, which makes it very unique. There's only a couple places in the world that share similarities with that, such as the ocean, and then even outer space, right? No one owns it, controls it. In Antarctica, we are dictated by the Antarctic Treaty, which talks about how we operate. But at the end of the day, no one has what I call the home field advantage. When you're dealing with culture, right, there's not a historic culture in Antarctica because no one is from there. What you'll get is you will see that at the United States Antarctic Program bases, that there is a United States centric culture there. At the Australian bases, you'll find an Australian culture. At the Norwegian bases, you'll find a Norwegian culture, and so on and so on. But what makes everyone unique is that there is a sense of a shared Antarctic culture, which is strong because of just the difficulties that you have living there, due to weather conditions. Whether 24-hour daylight during the summer or 24-hour nighttime in the wintertime. So you do get a very unique sense of Antarctic culture, but then you get these random pockets of different country cultures there. With where I work at, and this is probably true for any of the privately owned tourist companies operating in Antarctica, whether cruise ships or deep field operation camps like ours. But we have people that work for us all around the world. So when I look at our staff, every year we have somewhere between 20 and 25 different countries of staff that are coming to work for us. Um, our largest percentage, we sit at about 30% of those people are from the United States of America, with a large population being from Alaska or the Pacific Northwest area. Um, then we also have a lot of people from the UK, um, other countries in Europe. We do have a very strong New Zealand presence as well. Um, we have an Australian presence, and then we have people, all throughout South America as well working for us. But total, we have about 20 to 25 different nationalities that are working for us at any given time, which of course can make culture very unique. Um, and so, with that, we have to take on the culture, and being in an HR role, I kind of have to foster the culture, right, or help lead the culture along with our seasonal managers. And the goal is that we create an understanding, right, of everyone being tolerant and accepting of other cultures. So, if we're trying to figure out the way to get information across to someone, the way you do that from our local Chilean staff to staff from the UK or Australia looks differently because of the different cultures that they're used to. We also have to focus on staff training at the beginning of the season to try to get everyone on the same wavelength, the same company culture, because we're not, right. When you have 120 staff members from 20 different countries, there's going to be differences. So what we have to do is we have to set up pillars and structures of organizational behavior and culture of what we're looking for in our staff, right? And then we have to communicate that to them. So when we do that, it creates our own company culture that is in Antarctica in the middle of it. And the biggest thing, like you've probably heard in all these videos, is that the more that we think we know about people, then like the more we're wrong, right? Like you have to keep an open mind, keep learning about these different cultures. Um, and that rings true with me whenever I reach out to people, even just about working for it seasonally or when I'm interviewing people. Our South African staff are different than our Norwegian staff, than our Ukrainian staff, than any staff that would come from South America. So, the culture, as I said, no one has a home field advantage. And so there is no overall culture, which makes it really unique. One probably the most unique places in the world when it comes to culture, because we're just a melting pot, right, of all these different cultures. But as a leader in business, right, we have to figure out what culture do we want, right? We want to have a culture where people feel comfortable at work, whether they're male or female or whatever their uh, sexual preferences or sexual identity is, or um, whatever their religion is. We want someone to feel comfortable at work and in Antarctica and living there. So we have to teach everyone to be tolerant and accepting of differences, right? That's the big thing. Um, and then provide training on differences. We actually have a training session for our staff that we offer, primarily dealing with customers, but also between the staff living in themselves, which talks about different cultural differences. And we also tell people like don't assume the worst in someone, right? Just know that there could be a cultural difference when we're trying to handle something. So being upfront with people, um, looking at tolerance, and then also just the culture around a group of people trying to survive, right? As a fan of the show Survivor, you can see where they take people on these tribes, from all around, put them on a tribe in the game show Survivor, and they basically form their own culture within that tribe. That's what happens with us in Antarctica. Um, and so yeah, trying to manage that culture, keep it a good culture where people want to work at, is very important for our organization. Uh, and there's a huge part of the survival, right? Just being in Antarctica because of the weather conditions and the living conditions. The best thing that I can relate it to is it's like a mix of being in the military, like a military base where you're not at your home country and everything is kind of in one area. Uh, but also, what I would assume it would be like working in outer space, um, being one of the first, sets of people working on um, at a station or a camp on Mars, right? Like Elon Musk is trying to set up. Then something in the middle of there with what I think of like with the gold rush that happened in Alaska years ago, how all these people from around the world were rushing off to these like really crazy conditions to try to look for gold. And I think somewhere in the middle of all three of that is what we experienced in Antarctica. Um, yeah. With that being said, it's important to touch on because Antarctica is not a country, but it is a place where people work at. If you look up culture in Antarctica, you'll notice that in recent years, you know, a lot of the scientific programs are going through a cultural shift in Antarctica. You'll see there's the British Antarctic Program, there's the British Antarctic Survey, uh, Australian Antarctic Program, and then the U.S. Antarctic Program. In the last 2 years, there's been a lot of global news come out about sexual harassment environments or situations like that that have caused negative culture in those types of scenarios. And you see that in a lot of places that are remote setting where people are working and living together and there's alcohol, so on and so on, right? You can just add in all the equations and that's the outcome you get. So that does play a role in Antarctica and living there, but it's trying to it's cool seeing as an HR professional, right? Seeing that that's what the culture was and how these different programs are making policy changes to try to positively affect the culture down there. Likewise, what are we doing as a private company on the continent doing to adjust our culture, right? So we don't fall into those habits that some of the government programs fell into down there. So yeah, I mean, Antarctic culture is unique, right? Because we're just a mix of all sorts of cultures. Um, when you're looking at the private industry, when you're looking at the public sector, with governments, scientific teams, um, you do get a lot of culture related to people's home country, right? So if you went to McMurdo Base, which is the largest Antarctic base, there's like 2,000 employees that work there. Most of them are from the United States. It's going to have a strong, United States of America culture there. Um, but yeah, if you all have any questions about culture in Antarctica, feel free to reach out. To me, it's really exciting and interesting because it mixes, international management with human resources, which is really my professional background is in human resources. I just do it internationally. Um, and so, maintaining culture, managing it, that is also what, you would do if you went, you know, to another country is how do you manage culture somewhere else that you're not used to, right? Um, the last question that I usually ask guests in these interviews is, what advice would you have for people if, or for you all, um, that are studying international management or interested in working internationally? The biggest advice that I would have, which I've said multiple times, is keep an open mind. The more you travel, the less you know. I saw that quote. I've mentioned that several times, and I love that quote. Um, when you go somewhere new, right? Uh, there's going to be a lot of cultural nuances that you don't know. You have to learn. Don't go in saying, "Oh, this is how we do X, Y, Z," right? Instead, it is important to look at how people are doing, um, how the work's happening, stick around a while, and then try to implement some process changes if you need to. But don't start off the bat by doing that. Um, you need to learn the team. You need to learn the people that are there, how they work, how they operate, and how you can be a part of that. to make it the best you can. So hopefully you all have enjoyed these videos. This is the last video in the series in the semester that we've been learning together. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Um, yeah, hope you're looking forward to your final exam that's coming up, and it's been a great semester. So thanks for being a part of it.